You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's January the 22nd, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, your psychedelics and cannabis news source. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
Good morning, Al. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. I am preparing for the deep freeze to arrive.
The joys of living in Eastern Canada.
Yes. As we were talking about before we came live, they're talking minus 30 for Friday temperatures here, Friday night temperatures, feeling like almost minus 40, like minus 38, minus 40. Jeez. And yourself?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, we have 4 or 5 degrees here, but we have the same thing coming. Not as cold for Friday night, but still we're looking at minus 18 before the wind, and then, hitting about minus 25 with it. Our minus 30 and 40 temperatures are coming. This is Nova Scotia. It is, I'm sitting in the middle of the Atlantic, literally. Not way out in the middle of the Atlantic, but we're surrounded by the Atlantic, and the Atlantic is cold. So I empathize with you, because those are pretty normal temperatures for February for here.
Yeah, exactly. Ice cold. All right, we got a bunch of news stories to do. We got 8 of them in total. We're going to be talking about some studies, some law changes, and some very important information that everybody should listen to. So if you like what you're hearing, make sure you hit that like and share button. Help those algorithms and help spread our news around. So what do you say, Cindy? It's time to go.
Let's get going.
All right, you're up.
All right. Our first story of today is coming to us from MSN. Police are unaware of any link between human trafficking and Nova Scotia cannabis shops. The Nova Scotia government has said its crackdown on illegal cannabis shops was motivated in part by a desire to rein in human trafficking and ensure cannabis sold in the province is not contaminated with fentanyl. I'm sure that all of Canada has heard what our premier down here has said. The federal justice minister and local police said they have not received reports of human trafficking linked to contraband cannabis. And police in Nova Scotia say they have no evidence of fentanyl being present in seized cannabis. The Nova Scotia government in December ordered police to crack down on quote unquote illegal cannabis, with the premier saying the unregulated quote-unquote drug possesses a serious public health risk. While Provincial Justice Minister Scott Armstrong issued the directive on December 4th, he also sent a letter to 13 Mi'kmaq chiefs requesting their cooperation, saying the province was aware of at least 118 Indigenous dispensaries on reserves in the province. The letter was corrected later that day to say 118 cannabis shops, both on and off reserves, because we do have a few off reserve as well. The order has prompted criticism that Premier Tim Houston's government may be interfering with law enforcement to target First Nations communities. Both Houston and Armstrong have said the order is not directed at the Mi'kmaq operations, and they are targeting all quote-unquote illegal cannabis stores. It's definitely interesting down here with all of this going on.
Yes, exactly. And there seems like, they're giving out obviously misleading information on the fentanyl end of things, the shops. It starts to get to the point of, if they're always having to correct themselves, are they really, saying what's true in the first place?
Like, I mean, and Tim Houston is our premier. He's the one saying it, but he's got people writing for him, and they hand him a copy. Yeah, he has to read it and agree with it, but it's more than just him doing these knee-jerk, oh my God, there's fentanyl in indigenous cannabis, and those were the words, fentanyl in indigenous cannabis. And yeah, so it's quite frustrating. I was part of a panel this past week, and we had some Mi'kmaq people on the panel, and they expressed how insult, themselves and their bands are feeling by these comments.
Yeah, and it's it's very disturbing to see that they're going at them like that and painting them as being a negative, when obviously people are going there supporting them, and they're coming at them with lies.
Yeah. One of the things that the indigenous cannabis shops are doing is they're taking a portion of their profits and giving it back to the bands, directly to the reserves, for them to use as they see fit in helping schools and, helping health and mental health facilities. So, they're doing a lot of wonderful things for the community too.
Yeah. Well, our viewers are agreeing. As you can see there, whoever says fentanyl is in indigenous cannabis was not telling the truth.
Absolutely, I agree.
And what else we got here? We got breath looks like it, smells like straight shit. I don't know. But yeah, it's exactly as the first person commented, is the fact that they're not telling the truth.
No.
And the premier says that, and then the police turn around and say, no.
Yeah.
Not right.
It was nice to have the RCMP step up and correct Tim Houston, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. From that story, we'll move on to the next one. And this one comes to us from the Cannabis Business Times. And the headline on it says, Sam contributes $1.55 million to Massachusetts cannabis prohibition campaign. I'd like to maybe add to all that and to let people know that this story I find very important. Just because you have legal cannabis where you may live now does not mean that you will have legal cannabis all the time. And this story is a perfect example of that. There's no doubt about that. So here, I'll just bring the things back into line there. And here we go. The most notorious cannabis prohibition organization in the U.S. is financing the push to eliminate the licensed and regulated adult use program in Massachusetts. Smart Approaches to Marijuana, SAM, contributed $1.55 million in the fourth quarter of 2025 to the Coalition for a Healthy Massachusetts, Inc., according to campaign disclosure report filed this week. No other entities contributed funding to the coalition. Now, the coalition spent $1.4 million of that funding to collect 78,000 valid signatures, which Secretary of Commonwealth William Gavin's office certified last month, moving the group one step closer to landing its petition on the 2026 ballot. The petition proposal would end the state's $1.6 billion adult use market, including dispensaries, cultivation, and manufacturing operations. The petition, an act to restore a sensible marijuana policy, would also recriminalize personal cultivation. Adults 21 and older are currently allowed to grow up to 6 cannabis plants, but no more than 12 plants per household for personal use in their private residences. However, possessing up to 1 ounce of cannabis or 5 grams of concentrate would remain decriminalized for those 21 and older. Now today, for the first time, I can also announce that our million led support for 2 grassroots campaigns to end cannabis sales and commercialization in Maine and Massachusetts, is what they're saying. They go on to say that we still have the power to take back our public health. Now, Maine Secretary of State Sheena Ballows approved a similar ballot proposal last month to start circulating and collecting signatures for either the 2026 or 2027 ballot. Now, Maine has roughly a $250 million annual adult use marketplace. Now that the state secretary's office transmitted the cannabis prohibition proposal to the Massachusetts legislature, state lawmakers have until May the 5th to consider enacting the proposal legislatively. Now, if lawmakers don't act by May the 5th, then the campaign has until July the 1st to collect another 12,500 signatures required to place the question on the November 2026 ballot. Now, Arizona, their prohibitionists recently launched a campaign to roll back their voter-approved cannabis legalization laws. Now, that petition, this Sensible Marijuana Policy Act for Arizona, needs to collect 255,900 valid signatures to put a question before voters to end the state's $1 billion adult use campaign. Now, these 3 initiatives all aim to repeal what voters have already passed. What do you think, Cindy, about that?
Going backwards is just, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's scary to see it happening in North America like that.
It is. It's just it's not right. That's what people voted on. Now they're going to have them turn around and vote on this. It mentions all those different cultivations and all that. That's all jobs and everything that they'd be voting to take away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, I know. Crazy. And it just shows if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere.
Anywhere. Including here in Canada.
Right here in Canada. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And even if it wasn't eliminated, it could be changed dramatically.
Yep.
So, all right.
Yep. Kind of scary.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Shall we move along?
We shall move along. Let's go.
We shall move along. Coming to us from Leafly, patients with treatment-resistant depression respond to cannabis treatment. Treatment with cannabis-based medical products, CBMPs, can improve the condition of people living with treatment-resistant depression, TRD. The study, or a study published in the Journal of Affective Disorders, analyzed data from 698 patients who were registered on the UK Medical Cannabis Registry. Researchers observed improvements in patient-reported outcome measures, PROMs, including depression severity, anxiety, sleep quality, and health-related quality of life over 24 months. The cohort of participants consisted of 698 UK patients who were registered on the UK MCR. They had an average age of 37. About 3/4 of them were men, 1/4 of them women. And when asked about their cannabis use, 8% said they had never actually used cannabis before, 18% said they were ex-users, and 74% reported being current cannabis users. At the beginning of the study, the median amount of THC taken by most of the participants was 20 milligrams per day, and the CBD was at about 3 milligrams per day. Flower was prescribed to 81.5% of them, oils to 47.7%, and less than 1% were prescribed capsules or ointments. Researchers measured whether patients experienced a minimal clinical improvement difference, meaning they felt enough improvement that the change was meaningful to them in their daily lives. At the beginning of the study, 43% of participants reported experiencing this meaningful improvement in their general health. And this increased to 62% over 24 months. And for sleep quality, it started off about the same, 43% more reporting meaningful improvement, and that increased at the end of it to 57%. And similar improvements were observed in other measures as well. The study authors wrote over 24 months of therapy with CBMPs for depression. Participants recorded improvements in mood, anxiety, general health-related quality of life, and sleep as measured by the validated PROMs. The proportion of patients reaching MCID demonstrates sustained clinical improvements in depression and associated symptoms. These findings are consistent with other sources of real-world data, which include the CBMPs, which indicate that CBMPs may confer benefits in mood and anxiety in patients with depression. The data from the study showed that the greatest results were observed in the first 3 months of the study, with patients reporting a plateau of effectiveness of the treatment in the following months. And this has also been observed in previous studies. And the reduction of efficacy can be explained by a tolerance buildup. Really switching strains can help with that, among other factors. And the study authors explained, they say here, the observed trajectory may be an example of the therapeutic ceiling effect, reflecting the natural plateau of treatment response over time. There is evidence to suggest that the plateauing observed in this study could also be a result of pharmacological tolerance to the effects of the CBMPs, specifically THC, through the CB1 receptor, as shown in both preclinical and human imaging studies. Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, what do you think, Al?
Good stuff. Always like reports that come out positive like this.
Yeah.
That can help, they mentioned all the sleep and all that end of things. As I mentioned, that is important for when it comes to depression. You can't sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like study after study, but it's nice to see this happening. I think it's a big part of the UK moving forward with, straight on legalization, at least on the medical side. So I'm excited to see it done and support what we already know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I look at some of these studies that come out, is that even though we've known about them for years, this comes out and proves what we've been saying to people. And once it's in writing, people tend to agree with it more versus just somebody telling them about it. Right? So see it in writing. Yeah.
Yes.
Alrighty, move on to our last story before we go to break. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, here we go. This one comes to us from the Hemp Gazette. It's a bit of a follow-up from a story we talked about earlier, quite a bit earlier. But headline says that medical cannabis in driving among Australian patients. This was a study by the Australian government. They looked at the impact of strict driving laws in that country on medical cannabis patients and their attitudes towards and prevalence of driving under the influence. Now, the only state at this point to have a medical defense in Australia in place is Tasmania. We don't even have that here in Canada. Now, Australia's law is currently being challenged by various organizations and politicians. Effectively acts as a driving ban, as THC can be detected up to weeks after consumption, long after any impairment may have occurred. Now, researchers from multiple Australian universities conducted a cross-sectional online survey of Australians using cannabis for medical condition between December 2022 and April 2023, focusing on the issue of driving. Now, as well as capturing the demographic and clinical information, self-reported driving under the influence of cannabis, which is DUIC, was assessed along with driving-related behaviors and views about impairment. Of the 2,600 residents who had driven in the past 12 months, 73% were being prescribed medical cannabis, and 28% reported driving under the influence of cannabis. Among the factors associated with significantly increased odds of driving under the influence were more frequent medical cannabis use, being male, using illicit and smoked cannabis, and believing that cannabis does not impaired driving. They say 69% of those reporting to be driving under cannabis believe that they weren't impaired. But as mentioned, impairment or lack thereof doesn't change anything in the terms of application of driving laws. Exactly. Now, when asked how long after taking medical cannabis did patients think they were safe to drive, 20% of oral users, 30% of smokers, and 16% of vaporizers users, they said that less than an hour. Of survey respondents in the latest study who had been roadside tested in the 12 months prior, 15% tested positive and were convicted. However, the presence of roadside drug testing did deter many from driving after using medical cannabis, with just over half either deterred or it affecting the type of medical cannabis used. Now, they also found that 80% said that they can accurately gauge their driving ability. 81% said that they tended to drive more carefully. 58% reported tending to leave a larger gap between them and the car ahead. 55% felt that they were more in control of the vehicle. 75% disagreed or strongly disagreed that they are slower to react to sudden situations. 83% disagreed it was harder to remain focused, while 88% disagreed they found it harder to drive in a straight line. And finally, almost 96% disagreed that they were taking more risks. And they conclude with, as cannabis policies continue to evolve and as patients' access continues to expand, effects to reduce driving with cannabis need to account for the nuances of therapeutic use. Now, further research is needed to better understand how prescribed medical cannabis impacts driving and cognition. So yeah, that's same problem that we had here. Patients are worried about driving, and I imagine they would probably get similar numbers here.
Yeah, similar numbers on the same things. I find that all very interesting. Unofficial data that that has been given to me by the person that says that he hasn't. We have one person that he lost his driver's license due to MS, but at the beginning of his disease, he fought and won for the ability to test positive for cannabis. And be driving. So he had the thing on his driver's license.
Good. Something to indicate.
I've never gone to look that up to see if it's actually actually real or not. But
I've never heard of it.
I have no reason to not believe him. So.
All right. Time for us to take a break. It's break time for us to go medicate, and we will be back in about 3 minutes. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at 420pace.ca and paceradio.net.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back. We got you some more stories, and hopefully I got along of air here.
Yay.
That helps me to take that last quick toke just before you come back live. All right, Cindy, go ahead. I'll get it out of the way.
Okay. Coming to us from MJ Biz Daily, Florida law enforcement is arresting adult use cannabis legalization campaign workers. On Tuesday, Altmaier called 50 petition circulators working for smart and safe fund fraudsters, claiming they had submitted signatures of state voters without their consent, including forging the signatures of deceased voters. At least 9 campaign workers have already been arrested, with a half dozen more arrest warrants expected this week. This is according to a January 20th letter signed by state prosecutor Brad McVeigh. McVeigh's letter asked for subpoenas to be served directly on Smart and Safe to determine whether the campaign itself also violated election law. The sweeping new criminal probe comes on the heels of an unprecedented pressure on local elections office officials to declare already submitted petitions invalid. A campaign spokesperson told Florida Politics that the campaign is obeying state election law and reporting discrepancies to the Secretary of State. In short, the statement read, it appears the Attorney General is taking issue with the fact that we explicitly follow the law. A Leon County judge last week ruled that 29,000 signatures collected by campaign workers from out of state have to be invalidated. Obviously, if they're not from the state, they shouldn't be validated. And Altmaier was DeSantis' chief of staff in 2024. And that was the last time that Florida cannabis legalization appeared on the ballot. And when about $10 million in Medicaid settlement cash ended up in a campaign fund that he controlled. Cannabis advocates have accused the DeSantis administration of unlawfully using those funds to oppose cannabis legalization. Florida is the biggest medical-only cannabis market in the country, and it is considered the adult uses industry's best opportunity for expansion. So it's being, very strongly looked at. However, a recent poll commissioned by the State Chamber of Commerce found only that 51% of people that voted support the cannabis legalization, which is actually down from the last 4 years. What do you think, Al?
Oh, when I saw that headline, when I was going through news stories, I saw a headline and I started reading it, and I thought, geez, I'm not surprised. It's DeSantis. He's completely against cannabis and legalization. As I mentioned, money ended up in his being used that wasn't for him, used to go
10 million.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's it's sad, when people vote for these things and they want them, and the government that's in charge in that state doesn't like it, and they do everything they can possible to try to eliminate it.
Well, I mean, they're arresting people that are they're just trying to get information out there. They're trying to gather signatures. I don't even honestly trust that poll that they did that say only 51% of people want it. I know a lot of people in Florida that are searching for doctors to help them get their medical because they believe in it that much. And then they're asking Canadians, like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, I don't know any doctors in Florida, but.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know any either. So that all we can do is, hopefully the people win. If the people want this, then
fingers
they
crossed.
should have it. But you cross your fingers, exactly. All righty. On to the next story of the day. And the headline on this, which is coming from the Marijuana Moment, says that Delaware lawmakers consider bill to allow medical marijuana use in hospitals for terminally ill patients. Oh boy, do we ever need this in Canada, I'll tell you. Delaware lawmakers are considering legislation that would allow terminally ill patients to use medical cannabis in hospitals and other healthcare facilities. The Senate Health and Social Services Committee held a hearing on the bill sponsored by Senator Marie Pinkley, and this was done on Wednesday. Pinkley, who chairs the panel that approved the measure, said it basically says the terminally ill patients have the ability to bring their medical cannabis that they are already using at home, and they are responsible for storing it. Now, under the bill, SB 226, patients and their caregivers would be responsible for acquiring and administering medical cannabis, and it would need to be stored securely at all times in a locked container. Now, smoking or vaping of medical cannabis would be prohibited, so patients would need to consume it, other methods. So you're into capsules or edibles. Now, healthcare facility officials would need to see a copy of the patient's state medical cannabis registry ID cards, and they would be required to note their use of the medicine in medical records. They would also need to develop and disseminate written policies and procedures for the use of medical cannabis within the healthcare facility. Now, facilities would be able to prohibit medical cannabis use if they determine that such use would have an adverse effect or impact on the medical care and treatment of the patient who is otherwise contradicted. Now, the right to use medical cannabis under the bill would not apply to patients who are in the emergency department. So there you go, Cindy.
Interesting.
Can't come to hospitals.
Good.
I think it's great too. Like, even though you can't, you can't smoke in them, that's obvious. But being able to have access to their tinctures, their edibles, their lotions.
That's been happening here, since we've had a medical, program. And, I think it's amazing. I've had hospital stays where I've had my bag of cannabis, and all they ask me is they'll come along and they'll have a little lock and a key. Can you keep it in your locker and keep it locked? And don't smoke it in here. You can roll it in here, but you got to go outside to smoke it. So, I've experienced that here in Nova Scotia. And, for somebody who uses cannabis as a medicine, I really appreciate that. So congratulations.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as a policy, written in as a policy, and instead of just being like on a case by case, whether like when last time I was hospitalized, I had my joints brought to me. I had a bunch of pre-rolled joints at the house. So I had them brought to me, and I got to the point where I could eventually go outside and consume cannabis. Now, obviously, they don't want you to smoke cigarettes on the hospital property, never mind cannabis. So I was lucky the sidewalk wasn't far. So
Yeah, well, I mean, like I fought here when I was here, and like I mean, like I went out to the smoking section, but in one of the hospitals, you have to go off property to smoke anything.
mhm.
But people have carried their prescription with them or had it on their phone, and security doesn't want to argue with that because it is still such a gray area that they kind of just put their hands up and walk
Yeah,
away.
yeah, yeah. The and while I was doing that, of course, I passed around information, education. I had Gail bring me some Treating Yourself magazines so I could distribute them to the nurses,
Of course.
and patients. Right on. You got to do it where you can, right?
Mhm.
No better, hospitals. That's where patients are. So, all right, your turn. There you go.
My turn. On to the next story. This one is coming to us from Ganja Penor. New Jersey lawmakers approve medical psilocybin program. New Jersey lawmakers this week sent a bill to Government Phil Murphy's desk seeking to establish a 2-year pilot program for medical psilocybin. Yay! Sponsored by the New Jersey State Senate President Nick Scutari. The proposal would regulate the production and therapeutic use of psilocybin. Yes, the compound found in psychedelic mushrooms. The New Jersey Senate and Assembly passed the bill dubbed Psilocybin Behavioral Health Access and Services Act on January 12th. I think it's a real opportunity for New Jersey to lead in an area of medicine that is groundbreaking. Scutari said the bill would establish an 18-member psilocybin behavioral health access and services advisory board. Wow. Under the Department of Health. The board would be tasked with both creating regulations and reporting to elected officials. The bill would also expunge previous psilocybin related offenses. If the bill becomes law, New Jersey would be the third state with a medicinal psilocybin program, following in the footsteps of Oregon and Colorado. Last year, advocates in Alaska were approved to begin collecting signatures for a 2026 psychedelics legalization initiative, but the campaign announced after several months that it would refocus its efforts for a 2028 ballot. Well, congratulations, New Jersey. I, for one, am super excited about that. What about you, Al?
Completely agree. Completely agree. Congratulations, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think more of these laws will come along in the states, and I think that the psychedelics end of things seem to really be going really fast compared to the cannabis end of things.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Like, I mean, cannabis really, like, I mean, it was like the first person, going through and striking the path, and not as much work needs to be done for the medicines that are following.
Yeah. And I also look at it as there's no smoking.
Yeah.
This is smoking. Smoking has always been demonized for years, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that, there's almost 100 years of propaganda, prohibition, BS that comes out against cannabis that won't go away in a year or two or even 10 years.
No, we've got a lot more work to get rid of the stigma, and worldwide to help at least educate people so they stop killing and throwing people in jail.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we have one more story to go, and here it is. This comes to us from StratCan, and the headline, as you see, says cannabis industry's busy year lobbying federal and provincial governments. Now, cannabis companies were busy lobbying federal and provincial governments in 2025, focusing on issues such as federal cannabis excise rate, calls for harmonized excise stamp, increased enforcement against the illicit market, and overall advocacy for industry interests. Now, one company, Organogram, stood out as the most active last year, lobbying numerous federal and provincial agencies in 2025. Now, the New Brunswick-based company lobbied 23 agencies and groups, from Agricultural and Agri-Food Canada to Transport Canada, submitting 42 communication reports from January through February. Now, this activity far exceeds lobbying efforts at the federal level by other cannabis companies and organizations. The Canadian Cannabis Council, an organization representing several federally licensed producers, had 15 different communications in 2025. Pure Sun Farms had 11, and Montreal Cannabis Producers, EXKA, only had 1. Now, other companies have also been active in lobbying various provincial governments. Skyway First Nation in BC, which owns and operates All Nations Cannabis, a federally licensed cannabis producer in Chilliwack, lobbied the BC government 5 times in 2025. High Tide, the parent company of Canna Cabana, a chain of retail stores, lobbied the BC government at least 4 times, discussing issues such as consumption spaces, yes, at special events. In Saskatchewan, Tilray was registered to engage the province about regulations and policies related to cannabis, specifically regulations dealing with the production, distribution, and sale of cannabis in Saskatchewan. Now, in Manitoba, Organigram Global and High Tide both engaged with the provincial agencies. Now, in Ontario, more than 50 lobbyists are registered as engaging with various provincial organizations on the cannabis file, representing clients such as Organigram, High Tide, NCS Analytics, Pure Sun Farms, Kindred Partners, FECA, Chronos Group, and GS1, and others as well have been involved in that. So I don't know if we're seeing much in the results of all this lobbying, Cindy. But
no, I'm glad to see that the companies themselves are getting on board with what needs to be changed and what needs to be done. And in Nova Scotia, I know that they are doing surveys with consumers. I was on one here just the other day, about what we want to see, and it's sounding similar from me reading this particular story. So I'm quite excited. And one of the things that your story made me think of, which is really exciting, and there's no story written about it yet. Hopefully there will be. But I just want to throw out a quick congratulations to both the New Amsterdam Cafe and Edmonton, Alberta. The New Amsterdam Cafe Edmonton is being, fixed up and being prepared to open anytime now. And I am super excited for you guys and this consumption lounge.
Yes, we need consumption lounges. That's I was glad to read that, to see that in the story about them advocating for that, and well, that's at events, right? Now which is great, yes, but we also need them to be establishments
there
where people can go to.
Like a quote unquote bar for cannabis, and give us our consumption lounges. Like, I mean, the ones that we've had thus far are proving to be amazing. So make your money, government. You want to make money? This is another amazing way for you to make money. Give us our consumption lounges.
Yeah, from patients traveling to the cities, to just being for people who live in residences where they cannot consume because of agreements, or people in condos or apartments where they are being told that they can't consume their own cannabis. It gets in the air ventilation system, or it leaks through the walls, or on and on and on, right? So those people need places to go.
Absolutely. Especially this time of year where you're about to hit -40 with a wind chill.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be like standing outside smoking a joint at -40. Not
crazy.
Very. Yeah, exactly. So those are the days for alternatives, I think, if need be. All right. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Can I share my new logo?
You can share your new logo.
I can share my new logo. I just wanted to take a moment. I am about to officially launch websites, and eventually along with social media, and the gentleman that's working on my social media put together my logo, and we decided on the final cut. So I just wanted to share that, be paying attention, because Soul's Journey is about to go live and is there to hold space for you and to help you find your healing tools.
And congratulations, Cindy, on you expanding what you're doing, creating an actual business. The logo is part of it, and much more work to be done. And I know that you're going to enjoy doing that because you enjoy helping patients.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So, all right. Anything else?
I think that's it. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you Monday.
Great. Yeah. Have a great weekend. We will see you Monday. That's your report for today. Thanks to our buds at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop at ease.ca, as well as Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And in closing, as we always say, we'd like to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.